prolific bed had gone unwept.
No samples drawn, no water columns traced. The trophic chain was left erased. Red band spread wide, no warnings aghast. The water turned, then darkened fast. Sea lions froze, their heads went low, their limbs convulsed, their breath let go.
No changes showed in early feeds, the toxic load rose.
Hello everybody, we're a bit late tonight, my apologies.
Reports observed a colored tide, but no one looked beneath the glass.
I'm just gonna jump into it. Looks like just before I went live, it looked like I got targeted. I gotta realize how long we've been at this and how unusual it is to have things that happen to me.
The molten cores remained classified.
No inquiry was ever made, no half-life marked, no TEPCO leads. The anchovy biomass dropped, no visual.
And that song you're listening to is an amazing song. The links are in the chat room.
No action called, no process pulled.
You should go, make sure you read the words when you're listening to it. It's an actual work of art is what it actually is. Just let it finish out anyway because I'm still catching up.
Sound. It crossed exclusion zones unmarked. The systems failed without remark. No monitor returned the ping. No gamma shine beneath the wing.
They called it Bloom to close the file.
Turned the ping. No gamma shine beneath.
Yeah, that was my fault. Sorry.
They called it Bloom to close the file, the cause was clear. No test compiled.
It's got great lyrics, it's crazy. It's almost like a poem, man. Okay.
Bespoke collapse.
The accord remained.
The breach sustained.
The seed is
Is it dead whales on the beach, sir? I butchered everything tonight. It's okay. Would our planet be an amazing if the United Nations did not exist? An interesting time for them to hack me, you know? Hello, everybody. Well, that was quite the struggle for the last hour. And they erased a whole bunch of stuff. Our main staples all erased. I don't know what to make of that. And all the sessions, all 10 sessions are gone. I've never seen anything like that before. Well, we seen something like that about 2 weeks ago. Let's get after it here. Anyway, try the best we can here tonight. It's going to be a little bit tricky. Over 18% of Yale faculty feared arrest over teaching. Well, they're going to be arrested if they're being honest. The only thing they're going to fear of being arrested is if they're being deceptive and deceitful and dishonest and disingenuous and just plague on humanity. 1/5 of the professors were significantly concerned about being arrested in connections with their teachings. Did not ask why professors were concerned. That's quite convenient. Why wouldn't you do that? Might as well. 35% feared being disciplined by the university's administration for teaching. It's the second richest university, Yale. Endowment at $44 billion, second only to Harvard at $56 billion. That's an absurd amount of money that the university has. Anonymous complaints about the research or public engagement originating from beyond the university's gates are even more concerning. 61% were indicated they were extremely somewhat concerned about such complaints. I complain lots. Nobody's ever done anything about the deceit and dishonesty and deception. 60% are extremely or somewhat concerned about being doxxed or public harassed, because that's what they teach their students to do to people like me. We are slowly moving in the opposite direction of fulfilling a university's mission to generate and disseminate knowledge. Well, you lied about every facet of Japan's Fukushima nuclear meltdown. Every facet. Every facet of it. You should be in jail for the rest of your life for the harm that you committed, or even on death row. They lied about reactor 3. They lied about reactor 4. They said none of this happened. They said nothing got out of these buildings. They have a lot to be concerned about. They lied about every facet of Fukushima nuclear meltdown. Every facet. So I think one of the values we professors can really provide the public when we asked about our research. Yeah, your research says it looks like this, not like that. In a normal world, if we didn't slip into another dimension when churn fired up, you would have been held accountable, most likely. Right, they built this contraption off-site, reassembled it, sacrificed who knows how many hundreds of homeless victims, and then they claimed that 150 feet above this, whatever you want to call it, I call it a stump, but that's being generous, they claimed it looks like this. And they've done the same thing for reactor 3. So reactor 4 and reactor 3 to your left, according to Yale, nothing happened. They no longer use Yale email to communicate about their fake research and scholarships and creative work. There's not creative work. Overestimation, slow response beyond the rice crisis in Japan. If the United Nations didn't exist, our planet would be amazing. The whales wouldn't be starving to death. There would be insects. There would be birds. There would be mammals. There would be animals galore. It would be amazing. Your gardens would be amazing. Your skies would be amazing. Your oceans would be incredible. Your health would be incredible. They're the curse and the bane of humanity and the species, is United Nations. They're an absolute hideous crime against humanity every time, every second of every day. This story was May 29, 2026. You see that picture over there? Total 150 bags of rice delivered to a children's cafeteria from rice farmers in a nuclear wasteland. They have no shame, no humility. They have an absurd amount of pompous and hubris. I mean, this is insane. They would do that to children who are 1,000 times more vulnerable than an adult. Right? They're going, the children are going to be producing radioactive stem cells and radioactive hormones for their entire development and life cycle, 25 years. If they live that long in the rest of their life, they're going to have debilitating illnesses from this assault upon their... Japan's government, which is a criminal organization, on Friday acknowledged that its overestimation of rice supplies. You'll like this story. This is absurd. The shortage of rice became apparent around 2024 caused by an increased consumption by inbound tourists. 38 million tourists now. Way more than ever winter pre-Fukushima. They eat the food from the nuclear wasteland, go back to their countries and get sick and die. That's what they're doing. With rice imports, really, just Fukushima Prefecture is producing 1 billion pounds of rice a year. It never stopped in a nuclear wasteland. And because United Nations have orchestrated this against humanity. They're the evilest concept of anything in history. With rice imports by private sectors in 2025 climbing 95-fold from a year earlier. 96,000 tons. 213 million pounds of imported rice into one of the breadbasket of Asia for rice. They're bringing in clean rice and shipping all the radioactive rice out. The degenerate Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries has estimated that the deadly rice demand would decrease among the country's declining population. Declining population. Like there's a caveat to that statement right there. Just let me find it for you because there's no accountability and there's no incentive not to be evil because of the United Nations. And so now we need, the whole system is rotten and evil to the core. Heartless and lethal. So, a declining population. Just, you get a load of what I'm going to show you here. They're lunatics. The whole story is insanity. Bear with me. So in 2012, March the 20th, just 9 days after the first anniversary of the world's worst nuclear event in human history, worse than all nuclear events combined, was Fukushima. Seniors are urged to eat the food from the nuclear wasteland to help the farmers, the serial killers / farmers, and to protect the young people. The elderly must eat the Fukushima radioactive rice. Well, why would you eat rice from a nuclear wasteland, period? It's just... And then the world sits in silence. And then we're trying to do the right thing. I get hacked. I might have to just start making the videos and posting them because I can't use my system online because they're at me constantly. They had me arrested and gave me 6 gag orders that lasted for 3.5 years, for instance, just to silence me on some of their assets. They're actually insane, right? And then at the bottom of this was Japan Times, the major Japan Times. Those interested in buying rice from the nuclear wasteland can send a fax to that number to get the rice delivered. There was a senior citizen home that brought in, let me see if I can find it. It's so evil it just defies that the people that are doing it have any human attributes whatsoever. The orders handled by Hirati have amounted to 1,700 kilograms. About 700 kilograms was brought by an elderly cure facility in Tokyo to eat food from a nuclear... Why would you grow food in a nuclear wasteland? Japan? Why? Good God. All my work is gone. It's interesting they target the stuff that I use all the time. What they're not counting on is I got incredible memory. I know where everything is too. The document noted the growing interest overseas in food from a nuclear wasteland, including rice, beef. Why would you eat rice from Japan? My God. With exports of food items rising 12.8% to 170 trillion yen in 2025. It's $15 billion Canadian. 12 billion, say, US or something, right? International Atomic Energy Agency-led mission conducts source water sampling at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power station under additional members. International Atomic Energy Agency is not a regulatory agency. That's their words, not mine. I'll show it to you coming up here. Led a team of international experts that every one of them have an incredible legacy of lying to you about every facet of the nuclear industry. Treat it. You can't treat water from nuclear meltdown, bird brains. And all the university knows this, and none of them are coming out with dissenting voices. This is a very dangerous thing to do. TEPCO was unable to bring the contaminated water issues under control. 2014. The Advanced Liquid Processing Systems, ALPS, has yet to function reliably. It didn't even exist. 2015, they said it was complete, but the same as the ALPS system and the REVA system, the REVA system, which was the French system, couldn't be used. You can't filter water at multiple sieverts per liter. You can't filter that. They had parts of the site where they didn't have full control. They had parts of the site they couldn't get to. They couldn't go to as a lethal doses, just walking, running past these spots. I worked so hard for so long to educate, and we don't have anybody picking up my story and using it. It just doesn't even seem real. After thousands of presentations, we still don't have anybody, any bloggers, major bloggers, new bloggers, or any major medias, or any medias out there saying, hey, you should listen to this, you should look at this story here, you should... Nothing. For 15 years. Hate it. I'm hated. Absolutely hate it. And I ran to the ground. I was out today for 6 hours, covering the coastline. And first bit of good weather we had, we're going to have minus temperatures all day tomorrow, which is absurd. The rest of Canada is baking. And I've seen 4 or 5 robins. They're migratory, right? Never seen any sparrows or finches or any kind of other birds, or nothing in the skies, nothing in the ponds, nothing on the coastlines. Nothing. Not even a seagull. Nothing. It was flat calm. And last night I was getting in the car, and it was windy and rainy. And anyway, I was slow because I'm busted. I got hurt a few weeks ago, right? 15, 16 days ago. And the door came in, like, door will and wind, and just touches my leg, my left shin and that. Oh, man. Spent 2 minutes, I was crying. Just agony, just because the door touched my leg. Just all it done was touch the shin. So I must have done some serious nerve damage to have that happen. Just bear with me. Nothing moves fast around this place. Now I got to find everything again, right? So I'll get there. Don't worry about me. But it is troubling that I have to work now even harder. I will. I don't mind. I don't care. I'm not afraid to. So think about this statement right here. 2 sieverts an hour of beta radiation from water that allegedly came out of the tanks. What do you mean beta? How can you just have... This is like the point. They're allegedly... The story is so crazy that you always got to go through these enormous explanations, because anybody new would have no way appreciating or comprehending the cover-up, the enormity of the cover-up. But this picture kind of helps. This is just some major media. This is the biggest in North America, Canada, United States, the biggest in Europe, the worldwide scum. And ABC Australia's Cecilia Vega is the biggest on that continent. Now, this is some of them. That's not all of them. That's not even a fraction of them. That have come out and claimed they're 150 feet above the stump to your left, reactor 4. My apologies. I'm horrified by the extinction event, and everybody's out there yelling at Trump. You'll start up accounts, hundreds, thousands, millions of people started up accounts just to yell at Trump. And the same thing for Obama, and the same thing for Bill Clinton, the same thing for any politicians. But the truth of what's going on here is terrifying. Like, we're pretending that never happened. For what's the point of that? The radioactive fallout is an extinction event. Let me keep going here, actually. TEPCO says the bypass ground operation not having effect. Why would I? Look at the building. The damage was already done in the first few days. Not weeks, not months, not years, but the first few days. And there should be hundreds and thousands of bloggers out there talking about this in their typically daily blogs and stuff. But you can't have a descending voice. If you have a descending voice, then these people have to be answered. They have to answer, right? Those medias, it wasn't these people, it was the medias. It was CBS, it was BBC, it was CNN, ABC, it was CBC. It was all the major medias worldwide. All the universities regurgitated that lie, because if you counter it, then the world will turn on the media and say, we got you. I created this video 13 years ago. Do you know how frustrating it is to still try to tell this story? TEPCO says the groundwater bypass operation, this is 2014, will not have effect at Fukushima Daiichi. They admitted the groundwater bypass operations are failing to reduce the water from entering the buildings. Calling these buildings crippled should be a crime. Calling them cripple is pretending this didn't happen. Doesn't that concern you? Doesn't that terrify you? Doesn't that horrify you? Excuse me. La 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 la. Da, 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 da. Let's keep going here. Doing the best I can. Tonight's a kind of a weird show because I lost everything. And the fact that I could import into those sessions meant that someone done it to me, not that it happened organically, right? Or through an abnormality through the software or anything like that. And I've been using these types of software for at least 2015 anyway. So 10 years plus. I know what I'm doing. I'm not naive. I'm very methodical. I have really high-end gear. All right, so whoever hacked me is incredible technical proficiency, obviously. And there's a big incentive to shut me down, obviously. I'm the only dissenting voice out there educating the population with the documentation, which is enormous responsibility. TEPCO was, and my shin is still just fire, man. That's hurt. I thought it was, the last couple of days, I thought I was doing really good, right? Before last night. And then just have the door touch it, and that was incredible pain. Holy shit. All last night was incredible pain. It's been a tough year. January, took a major fall. I was gone for like 4 weeks, 5 weeks, and then I got gout. And then that was torture. That was absolutely torture. I don't know if anybody had gout, that's torture. And then I took another fall 15 days ago. That was brutal. That's brutal. I haven't done a show every day on schedule. Most of them are only an hour long, but we still tried our best, right? We never waver. We're in a different dimension. I don't mean that as a cliche. When churn fired up, we actually slipped into a different dimension. And there's a lot of documentary out there now. Like, there's a whole lot of movies where, life is like a box of chocolate. They don't actually say that anymore, even though we all remember those words. There's all kinds of people who made videos saying those words, but the official story now is that was never said. Scumbag Tom Hanks never said that. We really did. We slipped into another dimension after churn. The United Nations has now destroyed our world physically, and by having an experiment they knew. I mean, if you go look at churn, they have Shiva, the god of war and destruction, as a symbol in front of their main office. Like, the churn is actually on a piece of land of France and Switzerland. It's a sovereign country. It's like the Vatican. It's its own country. It has no rules and regulations that we can challenge, because of the United Nations' enormous influence as a military-industrial complex. TEPCO said, if ever the pumping operation had any tangible, we're going to have to challenge that soon. I'm going to do a whole presentations on that, because it's hard to comprehend what I'm saying is real, but we are 100%. And we're in an extinction event. If you look at my last 3 videos on emaciated whales, starving whales, it's absurd how many people don't know what the word emaciation means. It's mind-boggling. If I mention it, I'll never use the word emaciation, because everybody looks at you and don't know what it means. And they're like, well, what does emaciation mean? Just go away. Leave me alone. Do the world a favor and go jump off a friggin' popsicle stand. In June, TEPCO was also forced to admit that the ice wall operation was forced to admit. Why would you build an ice wall at a nuclear meltdown where the alleged 260,000 people worked to build an ice wall right around 4 reactor buildings that had 8 fuel pools and lost their inventories, which was at least 36 to 60 reactor cores. And these were pure uranium, plutonium, massive reactor cores. You can't work in that environment. You can't do stuff like that. And 260,000 people, where's all the paper suits? I know this story is all over the place tonight. I already lost the majority of people trying to work out what I'm talking about, I'm sure. And everybody else is just censored. It's madness, eh? La la la. Hello, everybody. There's no small modular reactors, Tim. The small modular reactors they're going to build are skyscrapers. The Canadian one is a 24-story building. The Chinese is just as big, and Russia's a 15-story barge. If they had a small modular reactor design, they wouldn't be building these massive skyscrapers. Canada's going to put 12 stories underground. TEPCO's ice wall not meeting expectations. TEPCO admits the ice wall will not stop groundwater from entering the buildings. What about the typhoons? What about snow? What about rain? The ice wall is meant to catch water coming down the hill. There's no bottom. There's no top. Like, it was the stupidest thing imaginable, but no dissenting voices. Nobody's allowed to question, right, the military industrial complex, the United Nations. Nobody's allowed to have any dissenting voices because they have total control over your governments, your medias, and your universities. There's no incentive not to be evil, and so they took the evilest path they can find. And TEPCO failed to deliver, promised to install a fence. TEPCO's not a decommission authority. They shouldn't even exist. They were nationalized by the Japanese government right away. But they want you to scream at TEPCO, not at the Nuclear Energy Institute, the nuclear industry, the nuclear lobbying groups, or the nuclear government, or the regulatory agencies. And the International Atomic Energy Agency, and IRPA, and NONSCLEAR, and the IPRC, and the IPP, these are not regulatory agencies. They don't have any authority over any country. Water at a sievert, above a sievert, like there's so much documentation. And how can you have, like I showed you one earlier, 2 sieverts, it was actually 2.2 sieverts of beta. How can you not have gammas, alphas, and neutrons? You can't filter just beta, and then that's your only issue. There's no science. They just say whatever you feel like, and nobody's allowed to question that. And it won't be long before, like COVID or 911, you won't be allowed to talk about it. You'll get banned from all the social medias, so-called. Not social medias. It's prison medias. Nuclear report warns of an apocalyptic scenario. Apocalyptic scenario. Each of the buildings had around 8 or 9 reactor cores at the top of it. They're all gone. All 4 buildings. You're talking about 36 to 60 reactor cores are gone. International Degenerate Moron Agency, the Shit for Brains Agency, they never even went to Fukushima for the first 12 years. Source water sampling at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power station. What year was this one? Yeah, 2026. That was a couple of days ago. Back in June the 2nd, 2011, he admitted there's no such thing as a safe level of radiation, and that the International Atomic Energy Agency / United Nations radiation standards are based on benefit, not safety. There's no benefit for anthropogenic man-made radiation. So what that means is their standards are based on bananas and potato chips and walking in the sunshine and sleeping next to somebody and climbing mountains and flying on airplanes. Harmless and innocuous and benign. La 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 la. I'm running to the ground, but I'm far from done. I'm tormented, but I'm far from done. It's just fuel for my fire. My engine. My engine runs on something totally different. There's nobody at the United Nations can understand what I do. They don't have that integrity. They don't have that. There's nobody stoic in the United Nations. There's not a single person there. Imagine admitting that there are allowable radiation standards that for your children, for your friends, for your communities, for your hospitals are based on natural, not man-made stuff. And the stuff they're putting in you is not natural, it's man-made. Do you got any idea how insane that statement actually is? How ludicrous and dangerous that statement actually is. That acknowledgement is. That The degenerate UN today admitted there's no such thing as a safe level. The standards are based on natural, not safety, which is man-made. There is no benefit from anthropogenic man-made radiation. That's why you have terrorist laws. So what benefit was it to these children that had man-made anthropogenic radiation? 35.8%. It used to be 1 in a million. This was 13,646 out of 38,200, which means if you scale it up to a million, it's 358,000 out of a million had tumors the size of their thyroids. Their thyroids are only around 2 centimeters for a child. Their thyroids are producing the hormones that regulates their pituitary, adrenaline glands, their entire function of their body development, their brains, their... Do you got any idea how insane that statement right there, that acknowledgement right there actually is? And they're just screeching like a banana and a potato chip and walking in the sunshine. Well, walking in the sunshine, bananas and potato chips don't give you thyroid tumors the size of your thyroid gland and leave you producing radioactive hormones for the rest of your life. And you can't have those attributes without the same thing happening to your bones, stem cells. So if they're producing radioactive hormones for the rest of life, they're producing radioactive stem cells for the development and their troubled life. Their life is now an incredible burden to the medical system, all of them. It used to be 1 in a million. 50 becquerels a kilogram. A becquerel is the pulse of energy from an atom. So it's very deceptive, see? So instead of saying 50 atoms a kilogram, it's 50 becquerels, 50 pulses of energy. But the becquerel is the result. It's an explosion, almost at the speed of light in every direction. It leads to irreversible lesions in the vital organs. Sounds like fun, eh? Sounds like a hoot. Don't you want your children to have those attributes? Don't you want them to get sick and fucking die because you didn't hold United Nations accountable? Because you're too busy yelling at idiot politicians whose job is exactly that purpose? So you don't look at the IAEA or United Nations, you look at the politicians only there for 4 years and don't care. They know what their job is, to take the heat. And they love it. That means they're winning. You're losing, you're suffering, you're paying the price. Your children, your grandparents, your loved ones, your families, your friends are the target and the species. And they don't got to worry about the species anymore. It's just basically us. If you look at my last 3 videos on the whales and go back in my live shows and look at the other live recent presentations on the emaciated whales, and you're honest, and then you look at how many people are on my show, on the most important story in human history, period, bar nothing, 11 people. What did they let me get on my last couple of videos? I got live shows. I got 133 views on my last show, 128 views on the show before that. Non-stop emaciated whales. 169, which must have been a fluke to get that many views. Like, think about this show here. Grey whale annual calf birth plunged by 95% from 1,600 to less than 85. It was actually 62 last year. None of them survived half of the migratory journey. So there was really none. The ones that are born don't survive. All the species have shown up emaciated worldwide. And that, I'm the only person making the shows like this. I'm the only person providing that documentation and why it's happening. And I get, 133 views? Because there's so many evil people out there willing to cut my throat so that they can get their paycheck and go home and tell their friends and children and neighbors that they're special, that they're good people. That's what they do. And they know it's a total lie. They get the job because they have those particular attributes, because they're just drone zombies working for the industry. The industry only hires zombies. You can't work for an industry this evil with any kind of decency or capacity or compassion. You're a liability then. Really, the most important stories in human history and I got over 1,000 videos on this site. My other one had over 3,000 presentations. And they took down that site when I was at the whole site. No strikes, no nothing. Just took it down when I was there looking for spiders that were missing. I'm just like, it doesn't stop me, but it's shocking. I'm censored. No one's going to find me to watch me unless you actually know where I'm to. And how many people do I got tonight? 11 people, 15 likes, and 18 votes. And they hate me. They have my phone number. They won't call in. They just have the stalkers from Japan's government. That's the only people that... And what they done to me is shocking. They destroyed me. My reputation is destroyed. And I don't have an option but to keep trying. I'm hated with the lies that they put out about me. It's absurd. But yet I'm 100% honest 100% of the time. I can't do an educational program by I'm not even allowed to make a simple Freudian slip. I have to be, because that'll be chopped up and spliced together. And then they say, look, you don't know nothing. It's incredibly difficult to tell these stories every night. Each story is incredibly difficult, but it's incredibly important. International Atomic Energy Agency are not an agency. They're a public relation firm by a military-industrial complex that promotes death. And the reason we have so much misery and agony and destruction of the ecosystem is because of UN. UN is your fucking enemy. Japan gets UN nuclear watchdog approval. Think about that statement here. 2023, July the 4th. And watch this video. Now watch these people. What are they doing? Let me do that again. Watch these people. Hang on, watch. I'll show what I mean. Everybody ready? On set. Roll. They're running around in every direction. Look at that. Everybody's up there hitting the. That's not what you do. These people are actors. This is actors. And then that was for this, and then you can't even get a clear shot of whatever it is that the so-called blue IAEA comprehensive report on the safety review of the Alps treated water. On the Alps treated water. So they treated everything that came out of the reactor, and everything went in 2 tanks, and they're slowly releasing into the environment. Except the reality of the problem is everything was released in 5 days. You can't treat something that was gone 12 years before. 13 years before. Japan won approval from United Nations Nuclear Watchdog for its plan on the release of the treated radioactive water. To treat it. Notice how they... See, when you look at it, you might not read everything, but the word treated is imprinted in your head, and so is the word tritium. Everything is tritiated anyway on the planet post-nuclear industry. After a 2-year review, you'll love what I'm going to show you here, the International Degenerate Agency, UN, says the JAP's plan are consistent with global safety standards, which are United Nations standards, would have a negligible radiological impact to people and environment. Is that what is 13,646 out of 38,200 children with thyroid tumors the size of their thyroid, when there used to be 1 in a million? But they moved the goalpost in 2023, August 24th or something. It's a very special night, says the International Degenerate Agency's chief, UN, Rafael Grossi, for having a blue folder. And they had all the media there taking snap. Like when you watch the video, all the cameras, right? When he's passing the blue folder. And Japan would have the final say on the release. Japan would. Not United Nations, because they're not a regulatory agency. They don't have any sovereignty. They don't deserve 2 seconds, not even 1 second of your attention, ever. But they're controlling your media, they're controlling your universities, they're controlling your 195 governments, the big biggest military-industrial complex in human history, according to Eisenhower. Japan has not specified a date to start the water release. This was 2023, right? Japan would have the final say on the release. Japan would have the final say on the release. Japanese fishing unions opposed the plan, saying it would undo work to repair the reputations after several countries, was 55 countries, ban not some of the food, but all the food from Japan. And it wasn't just food. Several countries. And this picture is Nami, and you can see the reactor stacks in the background. So Nami is not very far away, is it? They moved people back into that nuclear wasteland after 7 years. Through its embassy in Japan, Beijing said the International Atomic Energy Report cannot be a pass for the water release. Does anybody really think for 1 second that China doesn't know that the buildings look like that? So China, the International Atomic Energy Agency, Japan, Taiwan, South Korea conspired to hoodwink 6 million Asians to protect the nuclear industry. They sacrificed every species and humanity's future to protect this industry, which is the bastard child of the nuclear industry, of the International Atomic or the United Nations, and removed most radioactive elements except for tritium. How can you remove something when it was gone 12 years before? When it was released and covered the whole planet 12 years before. How does that actually work? What's the physics behind that? What's the science behind that? Like when you look at these small modular massive reactors, Canada's 300 BWRX is a skyscraper. They have 12 stories underground. Russia's barge is a 16-story barge. China's small modular reactor is a skyscraper. It goes way above. This is just a cover. It goes way above that. So, if they actually had a design for a small modular reactor, why would they be building those? They're building it because they don't have a design for a small modular reactor. But all the data centers are taking your energy, which doubles the prices of your electricity because they can pay more for it. We would have lots of electricity if it wasn't for data centers. Do we need data centers? How come we managed all the way up to now without a data center? And what was the benefit of a data center? It needs to aggregate everything you do online, everything you do with your phone, and then package that up and figure out ways to kettle you or to sanction you or arrest you or fine you, or you're the commodity. The data centers might be looking for portals or demons now that we slipped into another dimension, thanks to the idiot, moron, bird brain United Nations. The people in the United Nations, some of these people are very questionable as people. Did you ever see that video of United Nations representative? Let me find it for you. The whole story is madness. It's just madness. And they're getting a pass on it because they owned your universities since the inception of the nuclear industry through the Secrecy Act and the Manhattan Projects. And then that is leveraged against humanity ever since. And now they have coerced our society through sleight of hand and deceit and dishonesty and deception. And it's not tenable. We can't keep giving... we can't keep sitting in silence. We can't keep pretending it's not happening. That's the opposite of a solution. I got a folder on United Nations that is unbelievable. Bear with me. See if I can get lucky here. It's worth your while. Just hang on one second. Let me explain something. I'll find it in one moment. The whole system, United Nations, these are scumbags, incredibly educated, chicken eggs, that are non-functional. They got degree after degree after degree. They wouldn't go try to get a job. They were the teachers' pets that were dysfunctional their whole lives. They're functional autism, basically. And they ended up getting snatched by the industries, weaponized against us. Yeah, I'm busted up again. And we got no choice but to go to war every single day we can. I struggled for the last, for 40 minutes before I finally got the show. And I got it running on just one. Anyway, I can't find something that's always in my face. Tonight I can't find it. And I can't remember the name of the site. I can usually just spot it. Just still trying. Hang on one second. It's worth your time. Ask yourself, do you really think anything got out of these buildings? Reactor 3 to your left, reactor 4 behind me. Does anybody really think nothing got out of those buildings? Now, my regular people here knows the difference clearly. But United Nations wants you to believe nothing got out of that building because that would screw up. Like, United Nations are the reason that your friends are dying in the hospitals from radiation. It should never be used in a hospital. There's no solution for anthropogenic man-made radiation. It doesn't cure cancer. It is the cancer. And once you give somebody man-made radiations, well, how is this even possible tonight? If United Nations never existed, our planet would be amazing. It would be amazing. I can't find what I'm looking for. And it's usually always in my face when I go. I'm on BitChute right now looking for it, but I don't know what to make of that. And I got it in my folder, but I probably got 700 videos on United Nations alone, or more. I'm going to have to give it up, keep going. I guess I can't find it. And it showed the United Nations meeting with this like aliens sitting there in the USA chair at the United Nations voting. And it's not a human, whatever the hell it is. There you go, I might find it here. I got it, I'll find it for you right now. And I apologize for, I'm not digressing at all. There we go, it's got to be right here. Don't let me down now, baby, there it is. Here we go. This is going to look pretty strange to you, but bear with me. You see this there? What's this? I'm not going to play the audio, See that up right there? Sitting in the United States chair. That's not a human. I don't know what the fuck it is. But look at it. See that? And who showed it to us? What is this, NBC, ABC or something? I can see the little chummy behind me, but I can't make it. And I don't watch media. NBC, is it ABC? I don't know. I don't know what that is. That's not a human. It's got a human hand, kind of. But that head is like a fish or something. And somebody's seen that and on their TV screen, and they screen captured it. And I was like, what am I looking at? What kind of bizarre world do we live in? Remove most radioactive elements except for tritium. How are you going to remove something from this? Like, it's so... So when you're looking at it, it doesn't make much sense to you if you've never seen this before. But the reactors and the reactor fuel pools full of decades of reactor cores are at the top of the building. There's no top to the building, for instance. And the significance is it's an extinction. If you go back and watch my Whale presentations, if you have never been here before, in my live streams, you'll see what I'm saying is 100% true. Right? I can't do an educational program by misrepresenting anything, right? I have to show you the documentation, the facts, and just so that way you can make informed decisions based upon actual documentation instead of just the public relation firms spin, right? The treated water, you can't treat water from a nuclear meltdown. If you like, the problem is if you get, you're talking about fuel particulates, you're spraying water over melted reactor cores. You know, most of it was tossed right out of the buildings, but whatever was in the buildings, that fuel particulate, if you're going to try to pump that, which, you know, by the liter, just walking past it will drop you dead, melt your organs. And you're going to put that stuff in tanks, which means you can't build another tank within thousands of feet of it because everybody will get lethal doses. And then not only that, if you're going to put gammas, alphas, neutrons, and betas, particulates, in a tank, when it settles on the bottom, you're going to have a chain reaction, burn a hole through it, and you've got to leave the site forever. Everything's going straight into the ocean. There is no filtration system. You can't filter it. You can never change the filter. After 20 minutes, you got thousands of sieverts in your filter. And the problem with that story, you know, a liter of water is probably 10 sieverts. 3 sieverts is a lethal dose in proximity to it. You don't have to drink it or bathe in it, or just being in proximity to it is a lethal dose. It'll melt your organs in less than an hour. If you got 10 sieverts, that's a lethal dose in just a few minutes. If you got 1,000 sieverts, it's a sniper round. It'll murder you from a very long distance. From gamma shine, neutron bombardments, beta ray, alpha shines, X-rays. There's such enormous amounts. It can't be filtered, and diluting it is not a solution. It's just spreading it out. You're making it worse. You can't dilute it, and it can't be tritium because everything is tritiated from the radioactive fallout from 8 decades for 80 years. Fukushima was a pulse event. You lost all the inventories immediately. So going in there 12 years later and saying you're filtering everything is the definition of a war. They're going to war against you and all the species. They're exterminating you. The United Nations' job is to exterminate every species, not just humans. And they have an 80-year jump on you. And you are more powerful than they could ever be. They are terrified of your voice. They are mortified that someone would even question them. They can't win a debate, so they only have controlled opposition. They never have a debate. There's never an open debate. They can never. The so-called debates are controlled opposition, like Beyond Nuclear, Arnie Gunnarsson, Helen Caldicott's, the very long list of these people, right? These are controlled opposition. These are controlled by the industry, and they're put on a pedestal to act as the opposition, and then they're like Arnie Gunnarsson said nothing got out of these buildings. They're in perfect shape. Helen Caldicott said these buildings are perfect. And that's what most people who's not in the nuclear industry are going to be fed. And they're insane. It's insane. It's insane. And it's insane hatred for every species. Why do that? Why destroy the planet? Right? Why have churn where it's, it's admitted? It's a very complicated story, and I'm not going to go down that road tonight, but I am going to go down that road soon to help be more articulated, so everybody can be more articulated on it. The officials said they made multiple and repeated attempts to explain the science that nothing got out of these buildings. I like to hear that science. There is no science. You can't look at those buildings and say nothing got out, so these stories won't show that picture. They'll show no pictures. You'll get this stuff here. China, there's no way China doesn't know. There's no way China doesn't know that that's what the buildings look like. There's no way China doesn't know. They're part of that idiot. The nuclear industry now a curse. And the United Nations, which was the League of Nations, when nuclear showed up, changed their name to United Nations. And then took control over that industry with UNSCLEAR and IRPA and the IPRC, the International Atomic Energy Agency. And they all claim independence, but they're all United Nations. And they all back each other up. Well, UNSCLEAR agrees with the IPRC, the IPRC agrees with International Atomic Energy, and International Atomic Energy agrees with IRPA. IRPA agrees with, and UN agrees with all of them. But they're all UN. It's 100% straw man. And there's nothing difficult about the story. If you're honest, the story's not difficult at all. If you're genuine and sincere, even a little bit, this story's not difficult at all. China's foreign ministry said in a statement that it regrets the International Atomic Energy Agency hasty release of the water into the ocean. Hasty release! It was all gone in 6 days. And of course, China controls all the universities and medias. International Atomic Energy Agency works in close proximity with all the universities and medias. In fact, they infiltrated every one of them. They're a curse. And being honest is the most insane job you can ever have. That's the most, because you're up against a monolithic, an enormous amount of wealth. You have 1,000+ public relation firms dedicated to protecting their image. And they know, right? The image is very important, so they destroyed mine. I'm destroyed. What they done to me is just, it'll make you throw up. The lies and the things they've done to me now is just, it's unconscionable. And yet I have to go to war constantly. Because how do I sleep if I don't? But we need people to stand up. We need people to talk about this. It's so fucking simple. You don't have to be a genius to fucking tell the truth. You don't have to be a genius to remember the truth. You just got to tell the truth. And then the truth, if you're always telling the truth, then you have epiphanies and insights that can only be gleaned from the truth, from the facts, from the documentation, and you can make assertions that are always going to be correct, and you can make decisions in your own life that are going to be relevant because you're honest and sincere and genuine. And you despite the fact that I'm busted up, this is a tough fucking year for me. This is 6 months now, is it? Tomorrow's June the 1st. So 5 months. I'm busted up the entire fucking time. And I barely missed the show, despite the fact that there's not a night goes by I don't hang my head in frustration that I'm doing the best I can with the little that I got, and all the research and expedition equipment I got now is old and broken and rusty, and we're, instead of taking a big research vessel in the ocean, we got a little Zodiac to compensate for it, which I'm tickled pink over. It'll work. I'll make it work. I don't know how the fuck I'm going to make it work, but still got a long way to go, but the weather's still nasty. Next week, around Wednesday, we're going to start with double digits, very low number double-digit temperatures. But that means spring starts next week here. I'm a long way from being healthy enough to go out there, but I have to build the operation, right? Before it can be used anyway. So that's what we're doing. We're in a good position for, because we've been at this a long time. So every day I go out and work on equipment for an hour or 2 hours. It's not much, but you'd be surprised what it gets accomplished. And slowly but surely, all the pieces of the puzzles are coming together again. And we're doing it just because we have to. We got no choice. I don't feel I have a choice anyway. I don't see how I have a choice. If I can do anything, then that's great. It's better than doing nothing. And I feel hopeless by doing nothing. If we don't get to do field studies and research, we can't say whether the species are gone. We can't say whether the species are impacted. We can't say whether there's questions I need answering. Ahead of the water release, we got 46 million migratory birds are supposed to be showing up right now and are not going to show up. They didn't show up last year, the year before, or the year before that, which is mind-boggling. And nobody cares? The species, 46 million birds come here every year to raise their fledglings. So when they leave here, there's several hundred million. And they don't show up, nobody notices. I can't even wrap my mind around that statement, but that's what's happening. The cliffs would be stained with their excrement because they're here every year for 3 or 4 months to have fledglings and raise them. 46 million seabirds, the biggest migratory route on the entire planet. Nobody's raised the alarm, quite the opposite. I can't raise the alarm because I'm fucking hated now, thanks to the nuclear industry in the United Nations. We still got to do the work. We still got to do the research. We still got to tell the story. We still got to fucking try. Because that's the only way forward, is to try and succeed to what we're capable of, to the limited capacity we're capable of. But I'm pretty capable. Even with the minimum, I'm still very capable. Ahead of the water release. So if you're going to go ahead of the water release, you're going to say that never happened. So in order for it to be ahead of the water release 2023, then you have to assume this never happened 12 years before. Entire inventory is gone for 12 plus years. Ahead of the water release. So this is a plume covering the planet in the first 20 days to your left, 21 days behind me. Neptunium decays to plutonium after 2.5 days. There's 10 decays, so after 25 days, the plumes are all plutonium. Well, that plume is 25 days, or 20 days and 21 days, which means that's almost all plutonium, not neptunium. And plutonium is typically 3 tumors for whoever inhales it. You don't need very much. Just a single atom will eventually destroy your health, or your animals or pets or birds or species. Radiation in the Pacific Ocean. This study was cesium only. It was based on 956 days ending in 2013. The entire ocean was contaminated. And that was based on the inventories from these buildings, because officially that never happened. Try telling that story to somebody. You can't have a conversation. Most people are so stupid, they'll go to the United Nations website to see if you're being honest. The United Nations are going to show you a perfect building. And they're like, I went over there, I never seen no damage. And we have to fight for them too. We have to fight for the idiots too. We have to fight for the morons too. just because they're incapacitated by the TV machine, the telly lies. Very high concentrations of hot particles in the United States and Canada, April and May, including plutonium, americium, and neptunium. And neptunium and americium all decay to plutonium right away within a few days. Xenon, you can't have just one isotope, by the way. Type of isotope. If you got 450,000 times above detection levels, the biggest byproduct of the radioactive fuel rod is curium isotopes. I bet you anybody who's never been here before, I sound like a schizophrenic. So 450,000 times above detection levels, persisting for weeks. Nobody blinks an eye? Oh, well, it's Xenon-133. It doesn't have a long half-life, Dana. Yeah, but there's whatever is in Xenon-133, which is brutal, burns a hole through your lung, ends up in your bones, mutates your stem cells forever. The damage is permanent, but it's going to be loaded with all the other isotopes. It's not just going to be xenon, and the biggest byproduct is curium isotopes. So in the same plume, there's 220 million atoms of iodine-129. Right, so you had a plume of neptunium that decays to plutonium immediately. You had a plume of plutonium and americium. You have a plume. In the same plume, you have a plume of xenon. In the same plume, you have a plume. These are incredible numbers. You should be fucking going nuts on this planet. This is a war. They're going to war against your water. Your water is your best friend. Your water is your most important friend. Your water is your friend. Water is your friend. It doesn't give a fuck about your race, your religion, your ideology, your race, your color. It doesn't care. It brings you life, it brings you substance, it brings you relief, it brings you comfort. It's in contact with every species on the planet all the time. And all it does is, whatever it does is always good. It doesn't do anything bad, it's good. There's nothing but redeeming qualities. It's your friend. And it loves you. It literally loves you. Without it, you look like the moon. You look like Mars. And radiation destroys everything. Look at it. Look at these numbers. These numbers are absurd numbers. Curium isotopes are the major byproduct in the radiated nuclear fuel. Forget the alphas, forget betas, forget gammas, forget neutrons. It's the major byproduct. So if it's the major byproduct, then there was a lot more curium, which needs lead shielding 20 times thicker than plutonium, than there was of iodine-129 with a 15 million year half-life. A 15 million year half-life. 50 becquerels a kilogram leads to irreversible lesions in your organs. So what does this do? If 50 irreversible lesions, what do you think it's doing to the birds and the mammals and the animals and all the species? If 50 becquerels. Look at these numbers. These are absurd numbers. Ignoring what I'm showing you is a fatal mistake for your friends, your families, your loved ones, yourself. 20 million particles of radioactive iodine-131 per liter, and I've been under siege for so long. It's not fair. I never get a chance to breathe properly, to relax. I don't get to go on vacations. I have to sacrifice fucking everything all the time. Every second, everything I got is sacrificed immediately to keeping this story alive. Everything, no matter what I do, what little I have always has to be sacrificed. For 25 years, I sacrificed everything. And I wouldn't change a thing. Maybe. If I had my time back, I probably would have never been public, would have become an assassin, took all my assets, sold them, and got some really high-level assassination weapons. I would have went out and fixed things myself. I put the fear of fuck into all of these fuckers, I can tell you that much. Rain with 20 million particles of radioactive iodine-131. There's 10 times more 132, 30 times more 133, 31 times more iodine 129. The 132, 133 iodines are 9 times more effective than the 131, which is fucking incredibly effective. Excuse the language. They covered that up successfully. 20 million particles of iodine 131 is a catastrophic amount. 220 million atoms of iodine 129 is at very high radioactivity levels. These are documented radioactive fallout. These are numbers we never even heard of pre-Fukushima. Half a trillion atoms per kilogram. A becquerel is a pulse of energy. It takes an atom to make the becquerel, so 500 trillion atoms per kilogram. Significant cancer. Now remember, the biggest byproduct of the radioactive fuel rod isn't 500 trillion radioactive, so-called radioactive glass. No. It's curium isotopes. So when you see all of these different numbers I'm showing you, that should motivate you to get your fucking asses in gear out there and fight back. Get busy. Get educating people. The minute the world starts getting educated on this, that industry and the United Nations are fucked. The world is coming from them. And right now, there's no one who's ever run an educational program. If the world's seeing this information that you're seeing for 5 days, that's the death of the nuclear industry. That's the death of... And it'll end the poisoning of millions of people every day in your hospitals from radiation. That's poisoning. They're poisoning you. And it's not illegal to poison you. It's not illegal to kill you with radiation. Congress and parliaments and Daiichi don't have the authority to make it illegal to poison you with radiation. Only the non-regulatory agencies has that. And they're never going to do it. They're handpicked by your administrations for that 4-year administration. And their job is to protect the nuclear industry and fucking poison you. And you sit there and let them do it and get away with it. What does that say about you? That's happened to the people that come here regularly. Think about this statement here. This is the French government. Radiation levels in the United States West Coast spiked to 1 million times normal after Fukushima. 1 million times normal. 1 million times normal. Spiked. So it's documented. This is the French government in Canada, United States. And 1 million to 10 million atoms per cubic meter of air. This model is based on 20 days. That's the model. That's the advanced model of that one right there, right? Watch the IRSN's film Contamination of the Environment there, which is right here. This model is only based on 8 days. This is your entire planet. So you got all these different isotopes I just showed you, and that's a fraction of what isotopes are going to be in that plume. And either one of these plumes, without all the other isotopes, are a catastrophic event for 8 million species and the humans. For all the flora, all the fauna. And only a fraction is, 50 billion atoms. Well, you can put 200 million atoms, or 50 atoms. You can put 200 million atoms on the head of a needle you can't see. So how are you going to perceive that you're in danger, your children or your friends or your family's water or food or air or is in danger? How are you going to perceive it when it's... It shouldn't be happening. It shouldn't be allowed to happen. It should never happen. The charters that they were originally created with, they said nothing would get off-site, which was an absolute fabrication anyway. They knew they couldn't contain it. The fuel pools have no containment. The fuel pools are full of reactor cores. They're splitting atoms for millions of homes each and businesses. And they're releasing it directly into your environment. It's on purpose. It's an extinction event. It's a snuff machine. And they're protected by Facebook. They're protected by YouTube. They're protected by Twitter. They're protected by X. They're protected by Instagram. We're banished. Any dissenting voices are banished. Have you not banished your kettle in so nobody can find you unless they know who you are? What would the nuclear industry do if they finally got rid of me, I wonder? They'll have all these public relation firms going out of business because they got nobody to fuck with, nobody to pick on, no one to shit on. And they spend all day, every fucking day shitting on me from 1,000 different directions because they got nobody else to fucking shit on. Grossi will visit the Fukushima plant on Wednesday after his Japan trip. He will head to South Korea where consumers have been snapping up sea salt ahead of the water release. So they're snapping up sea salt ahead of the water release. But this was fucking day 20. The whole planet was buried in radioactive fallout. Everything I showed you already happened. Not 12 years later, but in the first couple of fucking weeks. Japan's cleanup 3 years on. Little key work done. How the fuck are you going to do something at multiple nuclear meltdowns? Huh? Don't mind me, I get a bit cranky some fucking times. There's nothing I can do about it. In the industry, my detractors, so-called detractors, my detractors are bizarre. So which building is really reactor for? Is it that building over there or this building right here? Because officially, they're both the official pictures, by the way, but only one can be real. I was putting together a show Friday, and I realized our planet would be amazing if the United Nations did not exist, but I forgot to sketch it out, right? And then yesterday, I got jolt. It was like a jolt to my system. I was like, oh shit, that's got to be the headline tomorrow night. I got to do that tomorrow night. So I typed it out and put it everywhere so there was no way I could forget. Would our planet be amazing if the United Nations did not exist? Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness, would it ever. Our planet would be incredible. Our health would be incredible. We don't deserve. We're being destroyed by an evil, hideous, monstrous organization that is monolithic and prolific and evil. Its whole entity is about how evil can it be. And it has 195 countries throwing fucking money at it all the time. There's no resistance. Japan's Fukushima cleanup 3 years on, little key work done. Most workers focus on the growing amount of nuclear contaminated water that prevents overheating. You love this story. Mary Yamaguchi, Mrs. Evil, More than 3 years into the massive cleanup, dismantling of broken reactors and moving. Only a tiny fraction of the workers were working on dismantling the broken reactors. Broken. Like it's so absurd that because 3 years on, this is actually what the buildings looked like. Broken reactors, Dana. Says the chicken neck, says the cowards and the traitors and the scum that is your media. So most people are working on the water, 6,000 people a day. The amount has been swelled further by groundwater entering the reactor building. 6,000 workers passed through the guarded gates. What the fuck is going to run a nuclear meltdown and steal something? Morons. On a recent workday, 100 workers out of the 6,000 were working dismantling a makeshift roof over one of the reactor buildings, Reactor 1, and a dozen others were removing fuel rods from a cooling pond. I showed you a picture of that earlier, right? Bear with me, you'll get a kick out of what I put together on this one. And if you never been here before, I'm pretty sure I sound like a schizophrenic. So this is what they're talking about. These people are claiming they're at the top of the building and they're getting the fuel out of the pool. But it actually looks like that over there. November 2014. TEPCO is developing a system to try to remove most radioactive... TEPCO? Why the fuck would TEPCO be developing anything? Why wouldn't your universities be doing it? Why didn't the nuclear industry already have a system? And the system, ELPS, of course, ELPS wasn't completed till 2015. The tanks were all full in 2013, according to Rupert Winfield Hayes in the BBC. But here, we got it. I got it for you. Hang on, wait for me. So TEPCO is developing a system to try to remove the most radioactive elements from the water, one known as the ELPS. 2,000 tons a day when it's fully operational. 2,000 tons a day. Well, 2,000 tons a day is 2 million liters a day. Right? There's 1,000 liters in a ton. At 2.2 sieverts, let me just find that. That's like you're only talking about beta. You're not talking about alphas and gammas and neutrons, because Japan's the only place on the planet where they only produce beta at their nuclear meltdowns. It's not the twilight zone, it's the idiot zone. Nuclear is your curse. There's endless amounts of diseases and illnesses and autoimmune deficiencies and injuries and illnesses. No species, let alone humans, have an autoimmune trigger that can defend against it. Your immune system is compromised immediately, permanently, and so you're more susceptible to pathogens and viruses that were normally harmless, innocuous, and benign, are now catastrophic. La 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 la. Not that one, not that one, not that one. There we go. Just give me 1 second. Let me hunt down the madness. The story is just crazy. And the university is not going to help us. The academic community is not going to come to our rescue. They're not going to educate you. They're going to make you fucking stupid, make you incompetent, incapable of comprehending the enormity of any of the equations. The industry's lunatics is the only way you can really describe it. They're lunatics, right? They got the job because their parents were scumbags and their parents were scumbags. Hang on, we're looking for something specific. I got lots, but I want to get... I might never find it at this rate. It'll take a second. It's hard to comprehend why millions of academics, nobody's ever done what I'm doing, never spoken out, never contradicted, no dissenting voices. There was originally the first couple of years dissenting voices. Not many, but they were there. But they were weeded out of the narratives. Maybe I'm fucking stupid here tonight. Yeah, that's it. I'm an idiot. I can't find it. It's just because we have so much. And let me go back to that other story we know already exists here. I was looking for the 2.2, which was the article. I'm going to settle for it. Right here. Something I already showed you a little earlier. It's madness, eh? Now, the time at 2.2 2 sieverts is actually 2.2 sieverts of beta in a liter. Well, you got to there's got to be just as much alpha as betas as betas. There's got to be just as much neutrons as betas. There's got to be just as much as gammas as betas. So you're looking at least 10 sieverts in a liter. 10 sieverts. But the number we're using is just 2.2 sieverts per liter, not 10 sieverts. So each day, it's 4,400,000 sieverts. Well, 10 sieverts will melt your organs in a few minutes. So how many filters? You can't put four. You're going to have a chain reaction. This is just beta. This is not all the other isotopes. So that's 16 million sieverts minimum a day. 17 million sieverts. Almost 18 million sieverts a day. So if you got 100 sievers, for instance, you got a gallon of water, 5-gallon jerry can of water, you put it in a wall, a gyprock at Subway, right? And you put 5 gallons of this stuff in that wall. So five gallons would be 50 sieverts, if you're being honest. And everybody walks past that wall for 1 million years died that day. So what is 4 million, which is actually 18 million sieverts, going to do to your filtration? How are you going to change that filter? Even if the filter was 6 feet thick lead, it still can't shield you. 4.4 million sieverts every day. That's what we're talking about. This is what you're saying they're filtering out each day. 4.4 million sieverts. So if that was in the tanks, you could never walk over the hoses that's carrying that to the so-called ELP system. You can't do it. So at 2,000 tons per day, times 31 days, it's 136 million sieverts. These are absurd numbers, but these are real numbers. So 136 million sieverts. See, this is physically, how many filters do you need? And these would be massive filters to store that every day. 136,000 filters, say. So how many are you going to have to do every minute? When you start looking at these numbers, this doesn't work. The radiation levels of surface contaminated water, 1.8 millisieverts. Like, what are they talking about? 100,000 becquerels per cubic centimeter of radioactive strontium. You can't just have freaking strontium. The tanks were not well lit, they were bolted, which means that anybody within proximity got a lethal dose immediately. None of this makes sense. You can't do that. You wouldn't put it in those tanks because a liter is a lethal dose just being in proximity to it. You're not going to put this kind of stuff in bolted tanks. The tanks were just fresh water. It was deceive you and manipulate you, and succeeded beyond their wildest expectations. The International Degenerate Agencies, UN, assures the safety of water. How the fuck are you going to assure the safety? And Grossi emphasized that the document is not a recommendation or an endorsement. But they guarantee the safety. They assure the safety, but it's not a recommendation or endorsement. Japan has the final say. So that kind of there's a word for it. That's a plausible deniability in one sense. But what's the word for it? Can't even remember. In other words, they're not a regulatory agency. That's what they're telling you. If Japan has the final say, then IAEA, United Nations, is not a regulatory agency. That's what they're telling you there. That's their disclaimer. That's the word I was looking for. They're not a regulatory agency. The government, the TEPCO, the plant operator, which is not a regulatory agency, is not a decommissioned authority, rather, said the water must be removed to prevent any accidental leaks. So dumping it into the ocean rather than having a leak into the ocean. I'd rather have a leak into the ocean and dumping it into the ocean if that was the case. But why would you put it in the ocean when you can just dig repositories and dump it in that? Because the idea, everything goes straight into the ocean anyway. That's their old shit plan. The sites are built on shale, so that's exactly how it can play out in an emergency. So it goes straight into the ocean. That's their old shit plan. Fact box, after 12 years, Japan still faces post-Fukushima food import curbs. Diggers working in a field where contaminated soil from the fallout of the Fukushima plant was kept. And they want to turn that now into a rice field. So they kept all the fallout in the field. They dug ditches. They dug those holes and put the fallout in the holes. And now they're just going to go and till it and grow food there because they want to convert it back to rice fields. Do you got any idea how fucking nuts that is? This stuff stays deadly for millions of years. But there's no dissenting voices. The media gladly comes out and regurgitates the lie. Next to a rice field in Nami, 7 kilometers from the nuclear meltdown, I showed you, you can actually see the stacks from Nami easily. They don't look that far away. And that was abandoned for 7 years. Why would you go back? Because the industry is perpetually evil. It doesn't have a redeeming quality in the entire industry. It's disenfranchised from any rationality whatsoever. There is no rationality. These holes you're looking at is where they buried radiation, high-level radioactive fallout, which is minimum 100,000 atoms per kilogram of just gamma. They're not looking for alphas or betas and neutrons because, you're too stupid to question that. You're too stupid to understand it. I don't mean that in a derogatory sense, or maybe I guess I do. It's not your fault that you're complacent. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that a steady diet of the Spider-Man and the Hulk and SpongeBob and Simpsons has graduated you to the level of fucking incompetent and idiot when it comes to nuclear. It's not your fault. You're not a bad person. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that's the reality. That's what they create. They created that incompetence to make you incapable of questioning them. Contaminated water is currently leaking out at 10,000 tons a fucking month. Like, if something's leaking at 10,000 tons, which is absurd to suggest that that's leaking. Have you seen pictures of these fucking things? Everything was lost in 5 fucking days. I apologize now. I'm gone down that road tonight. Here we go again. Great way to start the week. Shows off with the madness. But it drives me fucking nuts sometimes. And I'm just a normal person trying to do something moral and ethical. Trying to be a steward of this planet. Trying to be a good person. Trying to help the world. Fighting every fucking soul in my body every day for the world. Worried sick every moment of the day and night. It's not a fucking night goes by I don't have fucking nightmares. I dread going to sleep every fucking night. It's torture, knowing that we're 80 years behind a fucking curve. And listen to this fucking fable. After we might as well go down the rabbit hole. We're going down the rabbit hole now. But once the colourful language comes in, typically no going back. Why fucking try? After being used to cool the reactors, water go through a processing facility, so the radioactive processing facility, at the 18 million sieverts a day. So you know what? Like if it's going through at 2.2 sieverts, let's say it's only fucking beta. When it goes through the filter at 2.2 sieverts, after 20 minutes, when it comes out the other side of this absurdly radioactive filter at multiple thousands of sieverts in 20 minutes, millions after 24 hours, when it goes through that fucking filter, it's going to come out at 1,000 sieverts, not 2.2 sieverts that it went into originally. See, and there is no filter. You can't filter it. All the atoms are the same fucking size. How are you going to filter it? After being used to cool the reactors, and then the pipes, the hoses and pipes that are bringing it there are absurdly radioactive. You cut out a square foot of it and brought it to an airport and put it in the wall. Everybody walks past it will die for 1 million years. They walked past it all day, every day for millions of years. So the hoses now are so radioactive, by the water time to 2.2 sieverts got to the other end of the hose, it's fucking 25 or 1,000 sieverts. You can't filter it. Right, the Reva system, the Siri system, all show that clearly. And if they could filter it, then it would be everywhere, not just at Fukushima. After being used to cool the reactors, water goes through a processing facility so that the radioactive substances are removed to an extent. Some of the water is then recycled as coolant. So this is how they mitigated the emissions. They gave you numbers that was equal to a garden hose, which is like 140 tons a day for a 3/8-inch garden hose, so at 30 pounds per square inch in 24 hours. So they said, well, there's 400 tons a day, right? Which is equal to 4 garden hoses. Normally the reactors need 4,500 tons a fucking minute. So, there's nothing rational with their narrative. They can't win a debate with their narrative. They just regurgitate the same lie constantly, and then anybody trying to have a conversation will use that particular narrative, which has no substance to it, which is not valid, which is nothing to do with, there's no science. This is not science that they're throwing at you. They're fucking voodoo. Some of the water's then recycled as coolant. Right? Which is, they're trying to count the fact that they have 1,000 tanks, right? That they built them all at one time, right? 2012, 2013. A lot of them were just fucking bolted together. Isn't that realistic? Anything you're talking about, everything is about, here's a fable, shut the fuck up, go away. Here's our version, we don't give a fuck about yours. Yeah, no, the science is terrible, that's the story, so fuck off. That's what they're doing to you, every second of every day. And the United Nations is the architect behind the laws. And they have the reach, they have the media contacts, they have the influence with 195 countries as their puppets. 40 photos from the Fukushima Daiichi show the ground incapable of supporting equipment. TEPCO is attempting to trap radiation underground with metal plates. It turned out to be true that the water vapor splashing out erupting from the ground. They measured 4.7 sieverts an hour in 2013, when it was 4 sieverts in June, at southeast side of Reactor 1. Are you worried about Reactor 1 or are you worried about fucking Medusa and Medusa? Because you're talking about 9 reactor cores gone. You're talking about 9 more, maybe 15 at the top of each of the buildings gone. Because they were producing about 5.5 reactor cores a decade, and that was all stored at the top of these stumps, which is all gone. Poof. I know I sound fucking crazy, but I had a hard time getting the show up and running tonight, so that made it hard on me. And I resent what they're doing to me. I'm not the fucking bad person here. And what? You're so fucking terrified of me? Why are you terrified of me, man? I got 20 people on my show. What are you fucking terrified of that for? I got 23 votes. Well, why does that fucking scare you? Because you got nobody else to fucking pick on. It's been every day fucking shitting on me. Every day fucking me over. And every day I come back. No matter what you do to me, I got to come back tomorrow. Because I got no choice. I got to. I was fucking put on this planet to do that. That is my DNA. This is what I do. I got no choice. I won't fucking sleep if I don't do this. And by the time I got the show up and running, I had a fucking headache because I struggled so hard. And now I get to cry myself again, to fucking sleep again tonight in frustration. Some of the water is recycled. There's a lot of people in the nuclear industry I like to recycle, personally. It's assumed the melted fuel rods are sinking deep underground, which has caused China syndrome. Well, if it's assumed it's sinking deep underground, why do we have all these plumes covering the whole fucking planet? Why were the fuel rods, which were 150 feet above these stumps, Do you really fucking think that they didn't disappear with the top of the buildings? Don't mind me, I'm just upset. I'm sad. I go today for 6 hours, I don't see a fucking normal bird anywhere. Nothing in the skies, nothing on the ocean, nothing in the ponds. No insects on the windshield. It was fairly warm today, but it's going to be miserable again tomorrow. Spring is supposed to start by Wednesday. I'm pretty excited about that. I'm excited to go in the forest and not hear no fucking sounds. More contaminated water found leaking at Fukushima Daiichi. Might as well continue because we haven't got much left to get through. So might as well. I put in so much work to get here tonight. I might as well continue. I'm worn out, eh? But all it does, for some reason, it energizes me. All the attacks, all they do is ultimately energize me and make me better. Right, the more I get attacked, the harder I work. That's one thing I know. The more I'm censored, the harder I work. So it doesn't help them doing what they're doing. They're creating a force. Like, my words will never go away. More contaminated water found leaking. Every time I hear the word leaking, I'm going to kick the shit out of somebody in the nuclear industry. Of the Unit 4 turbine building. The source of water trucked to a pipe that carries contaminated water from reactor 3 to a temporary storage facility. Oh, okay. So the turbine building of this is where they found the contamination. Not here, but the turbine building did. Oh, okay. And the water coming from there, because they got pipes. Someone put pipes there. Oh, okay. 3/4 of the fucking buildings are missing. The most important part of the buildings. Everything else, like the explosion, pulverized everything below, too. They just tell whatever lies they want. There's no repercussions. There's nobody going to hold them accountable. United Nations says it's okay for them to fucking lie. The water was found to contain 75,000 becquerels per millimeter. You know what a fucking millimeter is? There's 1,000 millimeters in a liter. Like, why would you measure it in a milliliter, for fuck's sakes? And why would you only acknowledge cesium? And you wouldn't even be able to register the cesium because the signal would be drowned out by the curium and plutonium isotopes. Because they're much more powerful. So there's 1,000 milliliters in a liter. Which is 0.001 of a liter. That's what a milliliter is. It's a spoonful. And a small spoon. They're not lunatics. No. Japan's going to use non-existent American technology to remediate the contaminated hazmat suits. So they're going to burn them. Now, one thing we know about radiation, you burn it at 3,000 degree Fahrenheit temperatures, you just liberate it back into the environment. You can't fucking destroy it. It's created under 9,000 degree Fahrenheit temperatures. Over 5,000 suits are contaminated every day. So when you got 5,000 contaminated suits, if you get in proximity to that, that's a lethal dose. Right? And look at, what am I looking at? You're looking at people in paper suits, see-through paper suits, in a place where the radiation, just a single atom, can destroy your chromosomes and cells from 600 feet away. You can go through your neighbor's house, through his house, your neighbor's house, and then through your fucking house. And wreck your loved one's chromosomes, cells, and DNA all day, all night, every time it pulses energy every second at the speed of light. And you got to wear paper fucking suits in that environment. Oh, okay. Radiation forecast in Japan kept secret to avoid panic in the whole of society. Oh, it wasn't just Japan, it was worldwide. 5,000 rubberized contaminated suits are used daily. Well, you only use them once. And when you look at these paper, these are not contaminated suits or rubber suits. These are fucking paper suits. And the homeless are given second-hand paper suits all the time. They're so miserable. TEPCO began coating the seafloor with cement mixture. Nothing got out, though, Dana. Oh, okay. TEPCO raises the safe levels for the homeless and the destitute and the victims of society to over 500 times the original levels, which were catastrophic numbers, and then reported as a 2.5-fold increase. You can't go there without getting a lethal dose. Your organs melt. Even like if you run past this, you run past this, and a helicopter grabs you and then flies you out of there, you're still gonna fucking die because your organs won't stop melting. You're still gonna die in a few hours. The mentally disabled are working at Fukushima, and when you see paper suits in a nuclear meltdown, that's not scientists, that's not academics, that's not nuclear experts. You could not fucking drag them there. They would claw the eyes right out of your head. The homeless are treated like disposable people. Yeah, that's the norm. That is the nuclear industry. That's what they do. That's who they are. These are fucking scumbags. That's who the United Nations is. It's just tens of thousands of fucking scumbags. The worst humans imaginable. The most cowardly people. The most brutal, ruthless, not stoic and brave, but ruthless cowards. These are cowards. The mentally disabled are working there. Even scumbag Forbes, homeless people are being sold to companies and put to work in a nuclear meltdown. It's outrageous. Yes, it is. What's even more outrageous is the United Nations has any kind of prestige whatsoever. That's an absolute fucking embarrassment as a humanity. I learned from over 800 people have disappeared from Fukushima plant, killed or died during work. The government is in business with the mob. Of course they are. They are the fucking mob. UN officials astounded. The homeless are taken to work in Fukushima ready to die. At the end of the month, they're making $11 a fucking day. Even though there's $1,300 a day allocated for each employee, the money's just stolen by them immediately. And at best, they're going to end up with $11 at the end of the day. You tell me that's an industry that deserves to exist. Explain that to me, Rick. Justify that to me. And you see all of these stories, these headlines. The headlines are made up of, see, that's Reuters up there. There's another media right there. There's another media. Oh, sorry. There's another media, another medias. And that's what the headlines are made up of, all of these medias. The links are under all those stories. Now, that site gave up eventually. But remember, those headlines are accumulation of all of these stories that are reported, and that's what the headline is made up of. And you can click on each one of them and go to those stories, right? Offered him $90 a day, and he made $50 a day for food and lodging, was taken out of his pay. But we have the numbers. They were actually allocated $1,300 USD dollars per employee. These are fucking scumbags of the worst degree. Some people not given food, doing the most dangerous job in human history, the most important job in human history, not even given food because they know they're going to die. 5,000 rubberized contaminated suits. Suggesting that these suits are rubberized is absurd. I'll show you more of those pictures coming up in a little tiny bit. So it's absurdness. Fukushima workers, some co-workers are really tempered. They use violence. Does that sound like a nuclear scientist to you? TEPCO completes covering the seafloor with layers of cement mix. More coating used at reactor 5 and 6 than for reactor 1, 2, 3, and 4 combined. So reactor 5 and 6, of course we know reactor 6, in a group of photos, 736 mystery pictures, released in 2021, that I covered, you'll find us, look up 736 mystery pictures, and you're going to see common spent fuel pool completely pixelated out, and reactor 6 completely pixelated out. Highly contaminated marine snow covering the seafloor at least 2,000 kilometers out. From ground zero, 2,000 kilometers out, highly contaminated marine snow. It's not marine snow, it's fucking radioactive fallout. It's an environmental disaster. Radioactivity levels in the ocean hundreds of times above normals. Like, mentally handicapped are working at the plant. That's your heroes, not the nuclear fucking industry. Wearing these paper-thin suits, paper suits. What the fuck is that there? I never noticed that before. Just hang on a second. Nobody noticed that picture before? Isn't that one of those fucking AIs or what? That's a person with a welder's mask. Now, if you're welding, you're not going to have a paper fucking on your head because that's going to catch fire and burn your fucking, catch your hair on fire. And they look like they're there welding, but clearly there's no one there welding. So it's either a dead person with a beautiful white hat on his head, and a paper suit around his head. The fuck is that? I gotta zoom in on that now. Am I wrong, or is that a human? Is that a human or not? There's nothing there that someone's going to weld. There is nothing. Because these are sludge tanks. You shouldn't be there because it's lethal doses. So why is there a person taking a fucking nap with a welder's face mask on his helmet? So you're wearing these hoods, or these hard hats, so-called hard hats, right? You're not going to put a fucking welding mask on your hard hat. And if you're welding, you're not going to be wearing a paper fucking suit on your head because that's going to catch fire with the sparks. I know, I weld quite a lot. And then what the fuck is he doing? And it looks like there's two people, right? What's behind him? See, there's an extra set of glove hands behind him? What the hell is this? You can see there's a person behind him, allegedly. I'm very confused now. You got a guy lying down. That doesn't make any sense. You got a guy behind him. And you're walking alongside of these containers are supposed, allegedly, where they're putting millions of sieverts every day. 18 million sieverts a day. So those steel contraptions not going to contain that kind of emissions. You're not going to stand up there and survive that exposure. And what the fuck is the welder doing there with a welding mask on a hard hat? There's zero possibility you're going to work like that. What am I looking at? I'm so fucking confused. I'm going to apologize for the language because I really didn't mean to denigrate to this stage here tonight. I really didn't, right? I didn't mean to be cursing and swearing. Even though that's what it is. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. Until I get fuck all sleep anyway. So let me put that in my pile so I can shake my fucking head at it later. And they deleted all of my sessions in one side. This is a pretty fucking rude thing to do. Well, that's a welder. Right? That's a welding machine right there. Looks like it anyway. You got the welding wires. You got the steel plates. You're working right alongside of the sludge, the radioactive sludge from the filters that don't exist. These are the homeless and the destitute and the victims of society in their paper suits and the unskilled. This is your media convincing people stupid enough to watch their program that they're going into reactor 4. Oh, here we are, reactor 4. At the stump of reactor 4 where everything is perfect. And picked up 30 million one-ton fucking bags, but nothing got out. You know what he's saying, right? When the man in front of you drops the fuel rod, the next one, or when the man in front of you dies, pick up the fuel rod and run with it. And look at this, they got IAEA taped on the back of their shirts. Guarantee you the IAEA is not stood up right there in paper suits. It's absurd to suggest they are. And what are these doing? What are these homeless people who are for photo shoots for that day, wearing their paper suits, wandering around at a nuclear meltdown by the tanks? What is this? They're not over there wandering around. No one wanders around in this stuff. Just lethal doses. It's lunatics, right? You pick up 80 million. These people got fatal fucking doses being there. And he's wearing a safety harness on top of thousands of one-ton bags of radiation. Those bags are not thick enough to shelter you from the radiation, protect you from the radioactive fallout. Japan's Fukushima cleanup 3 years on, a little key work done. NISA, they should all be getting the death sentence, those fucking things. This is one of the ghost towns, I'm not sure which one. They got the homeless and the destitute there with the paper suits on going around picking up leaves and branches, and they're going to call that decontaminating a nuclear wasteland. These are fucking crazy stuff. This is madness to suggest that's how it works. The whole town should be leveled and taken to a nuclear repository for millions of years. The people in these buses, how long does it take those buses going back and forth into the nuclear wasteland with the homeless to become contaminated? Just once. So after a few days, these buses are your fucking enemies. After a few months, these buses are nasty. These are brutal, lethal doses you're getting eventually from this. Anybody who's driving in that, wearing paper suits, are very disciplined idiots. This is a very candid shot right here, right? This is where they're claiming they're at the top of the building. The fuel pools are at the top of the buildings, not the bottom of the fucking buildings. You know, going around, I got my paper suit on, we pull back the grate and we're getting radioactive leaves out. Can you imagine how radioactive that stuff is? And that's what they call decontaminating. That's not how you decontaminate. You can't decontaminate. Like the USS Ronald Reagan aircraft carrier, they actually grinded all the surface of that 3 different times. It went up the shipyard 3 different times to try to get the radiation levels to come down. Remember this picture here? This is where they're taking fuel out of reactor 4. Reactor 3, rather. Like, the building doesn't even exist. All of this was lies. You got your paper suits and your stupid fucking gloves on? Okay, let's go. You're safe. Everybody's safe. Paper suits can't protect you from gamma shines, neutron bombardments, alpha shines, beta rays. So this contraption around reactor 3 that doesn't physically touch it, everything is remote control. Right, the stump should have been razed right to the ground. There is nothing there. It was left there, and I'll show you a better picture of it. So that stump you're looking at right there is the building to your left. Right, there's nothing there. It was created, it was built there off-site and then assembled there to hoodwink you, manipulate you, and deceive you, and by proxy sentence our planet to death, destroy our planet. A guaranteed death sentence for your species, and now we're seeing it play out. All we need is a few hundred people. Have the conversation. You don't have to be angry like me sometimes. It's not going to hurt. But if you had 100 people talking about this or blogging about it, the nuclear industry falls apart immediately. You don't have to attack them. You don't have to mock them like I do on a regular basis. Right, so they show you lots of these pictures of people. What the fuck are they doing over by tanks? What are you going to be doing? What are you doing? Walking around in your paper suits. In your perfect paper suits. Do you know how easy it is to tear a paper fucking suit? No dirt on the paper suits. No tears in the paper suits. These are the homeless and the destitute. The victims of society. What the fuck is this? When the man in front of you drops dead, pick up the tool and run. What is this? Look at it. You can see through their paper suits. There's the cover that they've done for reactor 4. You see that contraption right here? There's 3 panels here. They're hung there by gravity. There's no people involved in it. You can see you can see the third one over, the last one over. It's empty. Then you put the panels on it, and now like underneath the panel looks like this right here, no different. And you can see the bottom of reactor 4 is all you're looking at is the bottom of reactor 4. I'll show you another picture. So underneath that contraption is that. But officially, oh no, we got all the fuel out of it. Everything's good. We dodged the bullet, boys. Good job. You picked up 30 million one-ton bags, but nothing got out. And you disappeared 14 million bags. No one knows where they went. And officially now you only got 16 million. Don't worry, we got lots of paper suits yet, Dana. Bunch of people walking around in a paper suit. You don't see anybody working. There's no way to work. It's lethal doses. They're inside the ELP system. Right here, that's the water filtration system. That's the International Atomic Energy Agency and everybody else inspecting it. Do you got any idea how fucking crazy it is to suggest you're going to filter water and then get in the building? As if that's going to happen? If you fill up these tanks, you're talking about millions of sieverts. You can't build another tank. And you can't decommission a tank. Even if you were to do it, and you drain one of these tanks, you can't decommission it. The tank absorbs the radiation. Now look at this madness. You got 3 people outdoors with Geiger counters. Now you got one guy with it on the windle over there, 2 other guys. And you got people, these are journalists, inside the bus touring the Fukushima site. And then they got people outside. Like, this is the stupidest looking picture I ever saw, including me. I even look fucking stupid. But it's the stupidest picture you can wrap your mind around. And I remember when I originally came out with that whole story, we covered it, right? But it's idiotic to suggest that they're trying to protect the people in the bus, for instance. It's idiotic to think the people inside the bus is going to tell you that everything got filtered. That's what their job is, to say nothing got out of these buildings and everything was filtered. So fuck off. That's their job. And it's absurd to suggest that these people are working at in paper suits, which will get torn apart immediately. And not that you can work at a nuclear fucking meltdown. What are you going to do? Gonna pick up a fucking fuel rod and run with it and drop dead? This is decommissioning a community. This is not how you decommission a community. They picked up the bags was to manipulate you. That was only 3% of the land, and it was irrelevant. Everything was immediately contaminated because only 3% of the land was scratching, only scratching topsoil. 2-inch. What was it they were saying? It was at 2.5 centimeters of topsoil. So get a measuring tape and measure at 2.5 centimeters. If you don't got a garden, go one of your friends or family's got a garden, and get a shovel and try to scrape up 2.5 centimeters of topsoil. It can't be fucking done. But that's their official decontamination. This is the confirmed picture of the homeless and the destitute and the victims of society, the immigrants who don't speak the language, getting on their death buses to go to their death sentences. Look at this bunch of chickens with their heads chopped off wandering around. It's the strangest looking fucking pictures I've ever seen. What are they doing? What does that even mean? I love this one. Look at buddy sitting on a chair. There's 2 of them actually sitting on a chair. This one cracks me up. Look at this guy here. Like, these lines are carrying the radioactive water. You can't fucking sit on those lines. Even if there were 2-foot thick lead lines, you still couldn't sit there without getting lethal fucking doses. And look how everybody's so busy. I'm going to zoom in on someone for you. These 2 guys sitting on chairs. Really, you got chairs. Really. Chairs. You're sitting there wrapped around these hoses, are each carrying lethal doses that the hoses can't shield you from. So that doesn't make any sense. Look at the idiot there with his arms behind his back. And you got your tungsten vest on. Get those guys with the tungsten vest over here. The tungsten vest ain't going to protect you. How's the tungsten vest going to protect you? Not like someone's shooting at you. This is full body gamma shines, full body neutron bombardment, full body X-rays, full body gamma shines, full body alpha rays and beta rays. And the fucking tungsten vest ain't gonna protect you. I'm sorry, I get a little cranky sometimes when I see an extermination. And you can't fuck around on those hoses. That's the hoses to the alleged water filtration facility, which we happen to know, and I showed you earlier, didn't exist, didn't work, can't work. So that's why you get cheers. None of it makes any sense. Unless you're trying to get photos to convince people that it makes sense. There's 1,200 miles of the coastline like this. There was no infrastructure left. This is an offensive picture for me. You see the corner of the building over there that's gouged out? I'll put my stupid fucking head over there for you. Hang on. My big stupid fucking head, and I'll put it over there. Hang on. See the bottom of the fucking building right here? How far are you above the surface, the ground, from this pulverized? This is pulverized, remember that? Hang on, I'll show you what I mean by that. Because this offends me. See that pulverized building over there? That's that fucking thing right there. Okay, hang on. Don't leave me yet. So see that right here? That's right above the fucking ground. This building is supposed to be 190 feet tall. That's where the fuel is. This is 190 feet above it. And you can see right here with my fingers too. Why is that pixelated out? Do you really think that that is 150 fucking feet above that stump over there? Do you really think that's true? Do you really understand how fucking important what you're learning here today? If you've never been here before, I apologize. But do you really think what I'm showing you here is not true? Do you really think that every academic on the planet in nuclear industry looked at these two original pictures on the 15th of March, day 4, and didn't know the fucking fuel pools and the reactor cores were gone? Do you really think there was a single nuclear student in the universities, let alone the professors and the academic communities and the corporations and government and everything else, didn't fucking know that the fuel pools, reactor cores were gone 15 years ago? Do you really fucking believe that? Huh? Huh? Let's put a contraption over it. Say nothing got out of there. Besides 30 million 1 fucking ton bags. Nothing got out of there, and everything looks fucking perfect. 150 feet above the fucking stump there, that's almost to the ground. It might as well be to the ground. Because if you look at the pulverization of the building, it was right to the ground. Of at least 9 reactor cores. You see this person here spraying this green reagent? I think actually that's a Geiger counter on a stick. You see the green region around his feet and everywhere else? There's zero fucking possibility he was alive at the end of that day. It's zero possibility. It's okay because it's not you, right? It's not your friends, it's not your family, it's not your loved ones. But it is. About a dozen others were removing fuel rods from the cooling pools. Oh, yeah. From a cooling pool. From a building that don't even fucking exist. They were getting fuel rods 150 feet above this fucking building, Dana. God honest truth. I wouldn't lie to you. Swear on my hamster's fucking grave. The nuclear industry is nothing but fucking demons. The United Nations is your enemy. And it's as clear and as plain as anything is on this fucking planet. Hundreds of huge blue and gray tanks store radioactive water used to prevent the crippled plant's damaged reactors from overheating. Whoever wrote that, I would like nothing better than to curb stomp their fucking heads in. They are maggots. Hundreds of huge blue and gray tanks to restore the radioactive water in buildings hosting the water treatment equipment. Do you have any idea what kind of ludicrous assertion that actually was? How fucking dishonest and everything else that is. The contaminated water is a most pressing issue. So they have 6,000 workers a day working on the radioactive water. 6,000 workers a day working on the water. 6,000 workers. You're fucking insane if you believe that. You're insane if you think nothing got out of these fucking buildings. And 12 years later, 13 years later, the only thing got out was tritium. You're fucking nuts if you believe that lie. If you watch this whole video, that is, right? Because you don't, right? Nobody does. If you watch this video, you don't believe any of the lies. You know the difference. You're one of the lucky people. You're one of the most important people because you can have a conversation and win. You can win these conversations. Now, no one's going to beat you in this narrative, ever. Anyway, we made it. Alright. That was exhausting. Now, normally I probably would have only done an hour and 20 minutes. Since they fucked with me so much, I had to do a full show tonight, which probably not the best night to do it, but can't take that clock back. I'm afraid to check the time now. It's midnight plus 30 minutes. It's 12:30 a.m. my time. Good God. I'm glad I done it, though. I'm glad we got through it. I'm glad we told that story tonight, even though it kind of went off into the fucking twilight zone there. It's not unusual. I'm not angry. I'm fucking outraged. And I'm terrified. I'm mortified. I'm horrified. That there's no one to hold them accountable. Only us. That's our job. That's our obligation. We're obligated. Well, would our planet be amazing if United Nations did not exist? How the fuck do I get 12% saying no? What kind of fucking idiot would say no to that reality? What kind of moron would even conceive that no was an option? Fuck you, you pieces of shit that voted no. You fucking morons. Got it off my chest anyway. Yeah. Hi, everybody. Thank you, everybody. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night. Top's not blown off the buildings. The fucking building is blown off the fucking ground. There's only a stump left. These were 190-foot, 19-story, 65-meter buildings, Mick. The buildings are pulverized. They're turned into just... Yeah, I guess a fuck anyway. I'll cheer up for tomorrow night. Try to be reasonable. I don't know if that's possible. I can get pretty cranky sometimes. I'm not cranky, like, I don't think that's the appropriate word, but that's the word I'm using. I'm indignant. I'm horrified. If you looked at my last 3 live streams of the emaciated whales and watched that stuff, let that fucking sink into your head. I think you can forgive me for my temper tantrum so-called night I had tonight. Well, anyway, hopefully I'm back tomorrow and if you don't fucking murder me. Let's go one more time on the poll. Would our planet be amazing if the United Nations did not exist? Oh, yeah. It'd be insanely gorgeous. We'd have so many species. I was gonna play. I think I'm gonna play an older song from James's collection, Yellow Cake Mule. Something about that I really like too. He's got so many amazing songs. Oh, he's got a new version out, Yellow Cake Mule. No. I'm fucking stupid. A little bit of swearing tonight. I kind of lost it. James is putting all of his, it's just temporary, but he's putting on his music in the playlist. And he's got all these different bands and genres. And he's up to some really, really wizard stuff. He's got amazing epiphany of ways to approach it. Now we got a playlist of that music, right? Of his music in my. If you go to my playlist, you'll see. It's like there's a playlist everybody can like. It's not a lot, like 25 or 30 videos, and then there's another playlist with hundreds of anti-nuclear music. It's outstanding, man. His new music is just. It's got this whole new flavor to it. And the song I want to play tonight is not going to play. It's called Yellow Cake Mule. I'll just shut the fuck up here and get out of the way. Have a great night. It works that way. Like once I go past my normal 2 hours show, I really don't know when to stop. I'll just keep rambling. And I'm still vexed that they fucked me over tonight. I couldn't get my show up on normal schedule. And I struggled to even get a show. I had to make concessions, so forgive me. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great night. Hugs for everybody. God bless you and your loved ones and your friends and your families and the species and your water. You're my heroes. Hugs for you. Take care. Oh. Turn the fucking eyes on, Dana. I know. I hear you. Try it again. At some point I'll get it right. It's called Yellow Cake Mule. Take care.
Outside Tucumcari, rental truck, paint strip, tires close to failing. Driver says it's a moving job. It's clearly not. One-day contract to cross the state line, that's draws. No household goods inside. Drums stacked to the ceiling. Plastic torn, heavy powder exposed. Yellow cake baby, yellow cake mule. Interstate haul, not cocaine, not meth, not street contraband. Powder for the core, driven in daylight, truck rolls west. Nothing stops it. Libya, 2011, concrete yard, barrels left in rows, 1,000 tons in storage, fence pulled down. Inspectors went in, counted drum by drum, 10 were missing, 5 were found outside, abandoned in the open, left without a guard. Not contraband, wages measured in uranium, loaded at night. Routes not reported, hidden hand, fuel cycle sustains. The IAEA looks away, police say nothing. Wrong kind of crime, freight moves west. Looks like moving day. Yellow cake mule, interstate haul. street contraband, powder for the cold, driven in daylight, truck rolls west, nothing stops it. Truck keeps moving, highway takes it in, no mercy, no break, only yellow cake mule, yellow cake